KSM Show.
My name is Linda Ya Ampa. Keep watching the KSM Show, King of Prime Time TV.
We're back. Thank you. We're back, and today we are hanging out with Dr. Elikem Tamaklo. And before the commercial break, we were talking about the impact of COVID on the medical center, Nyaho Medical Center, and you were talking about the psychological. If you can continue where we left off.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I think the whole country and the whole world was going through a lot of mental challenges with what does this mean for myself, my family, for work. And so, you know, in the private sector, you are responsible for your staff in terms of making sure that they are paid, making sure they have security, job security. That is the business. But then when you're in healthcare, you're also asking them to go into the heat of the battle. And you're telling them to go in and come and treat patients who might have COVID. And I think that was where that it was really challenging because you have to do a lot of communication. You know, exactly how, you don't want to put anyone at risk.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, this just came through the whole country to confusion.
Yes.
So step by step, just walk me through, how were you dealing with your staff in terms of, you are the front line, you have to risk and get into,
So I think it actually, I'll say that it started in January, when around the world, and we have a public health department. So the public health department looks at what's happening around. And so when we saw this happening, we had to look at, okay, what will happen if it comes to Ghana? And we started in January with drills. So we have a quality director, we have a medical director, we have a nursing director, and we have an operations director. And then the HR director. This was a core team. And then, of course, finances, all of this costs money. We didn't know what the impact would be, but we knew that we would need to look at how to organize the organization. So January, February, we were picking up cases, and they were being tested at Noguchi, but it was negative. So we were dealing with this in January and February because there was questions, should we actually be doing this? Should we just refer them to Ridge and say that we're not going to take? And there was a lot of conversation from our staff as to whether this was the right decision. And then the commitment to our community and the commitment to being...
So a decision was formally made that we're going to do this? You made
throughout the decision needed to keep on being made. I would say that it kept every stage, even with our board, the question as to the risk, the reputational risk, because then, you know, in March, we picked up some of the early cases. Obviously, together with the Ghana Health Service, some of the early cases were picked up by us. But then the reputational damage is that people don't understand. Everyone is like, oh, something is happening in Nyaho. So that was actually reputation-wise, we started to see a dip in people coming. Before the lockdown, the reputational aspect, people were not coming because they were like, oh, if you go there, there might be COVID, which is not wrong. It's just that that is not the only information, and it's about information. And for our staff as well, the question is that, should I come to work? I'm not sure I agree that management are saying that we should be taking care of, we should be doing treatment. So we had, the engagement was daily, and the decision needed to keep on being made. And then was when Ghana had, in terms of the lockdown, when the lockdown happened, we obviously were continuing working. But thankfully, and I say that the team, this is where you need a team. Thankfully, because of January and February, and having gone through this already, some of the decisions were just put certain things in place. So, you know, non-essential workers were working from home. I was working from home. We had already invested in technology, so we were already using Microsoft Teams 2 years before. And so we were used to having some level of virtual meetings, but we were having physical meetings. But all our meetings happened virtually. And so we were actually we continued daily huddles, every day, weekly meetings happening on Microsoft Teams, but then it was the frontline workers who were coming to work. And so that is whereby they are the ones who are coming and exposing. So PPE, personal protective equipment, there's a shortage in the country. The prices move 5 times. And you also are private sector, so no one sees of you as to give you donations. All the donations are going to
the government.
It's not wrong, and I actually say that, of course, but this is whereby private sector, the money is not coming from anywhere. We don't have a foundation. So your revenue goes down. Your revenue goes down because lockdown, we went down by 80%.
Really?
Outpatient department, almost because companies, everyone was at home. So revenue goes down, yet your PPE costs, which was not in your budget,
Was going up.
it's also not the right price. It goes up 5 times, it's going up. And this is happening, and your people are coming to work. And so you need to also give them risk allowance, because we understand. And the question was that, what does that mean for my family? I mean, my children. What is the company going to do if something happens to me? What will the company do for my children? It is right questions, but it was not easy. So I commend my team, because this was whereby you cannot be you. It's about how many people are needed to have these conversations over and over and over again. What do we do? What's the compromise? And the board also was involved, and I think the Stanford Seed Network, some of the things that we had actually opened our eyes to in terms of, corporate governance, family governance, decision making, all of those things came to bear in the heat of the moment. The board, we had already got majority independent board directors, meaning that it's not family members who are making decisions. So those people are skilled, have a lot of competencies. They all were committed. We had meetings at nighttime, to say, how do we make a decision so that it's the right decision? So the decision to be involved that is why we exist. We are in the community. We are not going anywhere. So if we are not part of this, if we do not be a solution, then why are we here? So I think this is the journey we have gone on.
What decisions were taking on battling stigmatization? Because that to me was the greatest problem with this whole thing.
It was hard because people were not necessarily talking a lot. There was a lot of, WhatsApp is brilliant, but WhatsApp is also a danger because you can share any information. At the end of the day, is it the right information? And there are so many people, so much information. I think that was, it was really challenging communication. And so stigma was fear. A lot of people were afraid. And if you're afraid, you say certain things, even in the hospital, even in healthcare sector, people who should know better were saying things. And it just so happens that I, through a sequence of events, got COVID. It was not from the hospital. That is the point. It was in the community. So for everyone going out in the community, the reality is there. The reality is that you protect yourself anyway. So it is a disease like anything else. It's like an infection. You get over it. Your body, some people, if they have challenges in their body, will need more care. Other people will be fine. And so my family and I became the question for the board, I remember the board, I felt ill, my wife felt ill, and I was like, okay, something is going on. We were at home. We had not gone anywhere. It was someone who was close to us who was actually, who had come in. We didn't even know at the time. The point was, the board, how do you manage this? What does that mean for leadership? If something goes wrong, if something happens to me, what does that mean for the leadership of the company? If I fall ill, what is going to happen? And so we had a board meeting, and I was like, I believe strongly that if I don't control my story, it is yes, it's the company, but it's also what's happening to me and my family. If I don't communicate it, I don't want someone else to go and communicate it. So I decided to do a video, and my heart was beating. Is this the right decision for the company? People were saying, don't do it because it will impact the company. And at the end of the day, you just need to go with your values. So I said, I will tell my story. And so I did a video, and it became viral.
And I saw the video.
A few days ago, I fell ill. As of yesterday, when I got my results, it was found that I was positive for COVID-19, as well as my family.
It was actually tough because I was not sure if it was the right decision, but time tells, and obviously after that, it helped the conversation of stigma. And my family and I got better, we got well. And, we actually have helped in terms of the organization and people knowing that this is something you should know. You should get tested. If you have a suspicion, get tested.
For those who are listening, what are the suspicions?
So, right now, the challenge is malaria season.
Yeah.
So, for anything, what we tell people is don't stay at home and think, oh, it's this, and don't go and self-medicate. Don't go and find out. So, like anything, if you're unwell in any shape or form, go and get tested. See a doctor. Go and get tested because it might not be COVID. It might be malaria. It might be another infection. And so go and get tested early so that you
can rule out whatever.
Exactly. If it's negative, cool. If it's positive, you know what to do. And I think that was the first thing. Because COVID as well, it's not just people who are, people are there in community. They're not sick, yet they have it. So we were just saying that if you suspect it, get tested, and then make sure that you do it early. So you don't spread it to other people. So my wife and I went through this, and now we are testing. And I think what is important for me is that the protocols remain the same. Like right now, we are 2 meters and more apart. There's lots of circulation. I didn't make the decision. I want to say it because people will say, why are you not wearing a mask right now? But, there's a few things that you need to look at, and that's whereby it is to make sure that everyone's educated that wearing a mask is absolutely important. You don't know what you're going to do. When you're in a controlled environment, you don't just say it. You need to have consent, and we talked about it, that do you consent? Are we both understanding that we have this? And then I think we can agree. So I hope that helps educate people that, masks, social distancing, early testing is important.
Put your hands together, man. That's... and just for the benefit of many people listening, and we've heard, who hasn't heard about COVID, what you go through when you get it. People say they have chills, there's malaria, you lose your sense of smell, you can't breathe properly. What did you go through?
First of all, you go through the mental stress of it. I was scared because you don't know what's going to happen. But I had chills, I had fever, my body was aching. Actually, it started off with a headache, then my body started to ache. Then before I got the fever. And then my wife, at the same time, was getting a fever. And so that's whereby my wife is English. She's got a different genetic makeup. So when I fall ill, my wife is well. When she falls ill, I am well. So when both of us are unwell, okay, what's going on? But she lost her sense of smell. She could not smell. And she wasn't as sick as I was in terms of the rigors. I was sweating at night. For 3-4 days, my temperature was, 39, 40. And then my children, who were also positive, 5-year-old and 18-month-old, were fine. I'm telling you, they got energy.
Really?
They were running up and down. So when both parents are unwell, it's kind of like tough. But they were well, and throughout the entire time, they never had a problem. So it just shows that people will have different symptoms. And after a week, all of us were fine. We were being monitored. We had checking our oxygen. Everything was fine. We took the medication according to the protocols. And then what you are hearing now is a post-COVID syndrome, which is, for me, it was fatigue. 11 a.m., I'd be tired. And it happened for about 3 weeks, and then it just went. So I think that we are learning a lot about it, but it's the same. I think you should just realize that it's a virus. And so, obviously, it affects people differently. Some people will need to come into hospital and need oxygen, but early intervention is always the best.
Let me ask you this, because and there was even a joke about it, in bad taste, but a joke. People said, China, everything they manufacture, they take the best kind to Europe, and then they send the cheap ones to Africa. And even the COVID they sent to Africa was not that strong, because comparatively, comparatively, the way it impacted the US, Spain, Italy, we didn't have those results here. Is it because How do you explain that? Was it because the strain that plagued us was not as...
I think the honest answer is that I don't know. But I think that there are a number of things that are at play. And I think that we need to acknowledge that in the US and the UK, the demographic is different. They have more elderly people. They have more people who have diabetes, hypertension. And in America, for example, it was Black Americans. And that's because the health system does not favor Black Americans. And so it's different in the UK. It's not Black Americans. A lot of Asians were affected. And I think that, when it comes to Africa, we have a young population. So our population is younger than the UK and the US. And then also there may be genetic factors. I'm not sure because we are all born differently. But I think that if you look at also what Ghana is moving to, it is time that we need to start thinking of our health. And so I'm glad to see people talking about losing weight. I'm glad to see people talking about keeping healthy because I think healthcare is the same. If you are starting off healthy, if you get a problem, your body has enough buffer to tackle it. But if you start off and you're already compromised, it's not as helpful. So I think that's maybe something that's come out of it that, yes, maybe the African genes are strong genes, but ultimately it's keeping healthy across board.
Okay. I do agree with that. It's funny because especially when you listen to the local stations now, maybe you don't, but I just tune in just for every medication that's on the market now builds the immune system from everything. Everybody's
actually, even when my mother gave me a concoction, Sobolo, and a few things, ginger and for me, I was whereby it's important to follow. You should speak to a doctor because some things are not good for you. And you should not take drugs or you shouldn't self-medicate because like even paracetamol, some people will take paracetamol and they will have a problem. So it's not the same thing. But natural, I think what you're seeing is that people are trying to understand our natural remedies. And there is something to it. Actually, there's something to our natural remedies, but there is not enough evidence to say 100% to do this. Otherwise, that one person you say do that, there's the one person who's going to have a problem because you said that. So we all need to be mindful and careful.
And we have a few more minutes, but we have to talk about Stanford seed transformation. Now, before you leave, how have you benefited from it?
I'm always in gratitude to the program because it's not like every other program. What they do is that Stanford School of Business, the way it came to be, Stanford School of Business said, there's something good that we're doing. How do we spread it around the world? And then Bob and Dottie King, who were people who had made millions but wanted to see an impact, said, let's give our money to teaching people how to fish as compared to giving fish. And so, they came to West Africa and, it just so happened that I missed the deadline. But I saw what they were doing. I was like, how do I get into this program? I persevered. And actually, one thing that I have to thank Mr. Emmanuel Kitcha, I really kept on going. I missed the first deadline, second deadline, I applied again. And I got in. So the way it's structured is you have professors from Stanford giving you knowledge. Knowledge is key. The second thing is that you have coaches or you have people who can come alongside you to understand how do you apply the knowledge to what you're doing. And then you yourself have to go through a journey as to my vision. Why am I limiting myself to Ghana? Why am I not thinking of Africa? Because the thing that Americans have is that Bill Gates said that he would have a computer in every household. I mean, what kind of thinking is that? Someone will say, that guy is too known. But the thing is that the vision is what then tells you, this is where I'm at. You need a reality, this is where I'm at. And then you map out your journey from here to there. That is what Stanford Seed gave me, an approach to this vision and the people, a network.
You won awards as an entrepreneur. I know of two. I'm sure you have more. One All African Business Leader Award, and the current one, 2016. You were then the best entrepreneur or something.
Best young leader.
Best. Yes. Is this all from the part of the training you get with the...
I mean, I thank God for all the people He's brought in my life. I thank Him for my parents, first of all, because I think that the discipline I grew up with, no one in the household was treated differently. I had 4 bells. Just so you know, we had house help. The meter was also part of it. So I had 4 bells. My father was strict. I knew everything, how to serve, how to do everything. I did it, counting bottles, did it all. I think the training when I was a child has meant that when you face challenges, you persevere. Then you have school, you have friends, you have people, coaches. Stanford Seed Network gives you a community of people who are trying. Everyone is trying to transform. When you're in such a network where everyone has got big vision, it gives you inspiration to say, okay, if this person is doing it, then maybe I can do it. So all the awards, and I need to say that awards are fluff for me because the test of time, I don't want to be the guy who won the awards. And unfortunately, you've seen it in Ghana. You've seen people win awards and then the businesses collapse. And so I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy, give me an award. If this thing survives for the next 50 years, then I made the right decisions. And I think that is the best reward.
Fantastic, fantastic. Put your hands together, man. And we absolutely have no time, but it'll be a crime not to ask about your family. You're married to a British?
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife is amazing. She's British, but she's more Ghanaian in her heart because she's embraced our culture.
Okay.
She has embraced, she moved down with me from the UK. She was actually an HIV specialist nurse in her own right in the UK, had her own career trajectory, but moved down with me. And actually, she has embraced my family. She is here. My children are learning Eva and Tree and Fanti, and my wife is learning as well. So she's my rock. I could not have done this. I need to say this for all husbands here. I'll get some brownie points. I honestly could not do this without my wife because she believes in what I'm doing. And then my children are all well, and they're all doing well.
Fantastic, fantastic. Just a love, man. Hanging out with Dr. Elikem, Nyaho Medical Center, and doing great stuff. And is there a number, a website anybody can reach if they want to get more of the stuff you've given out so far?
Yeah, I mean, we have our website. Please go to our website. And, you know, we have many ways of reaching us. Sometimes people have different needs. Sometimes it's an emergency. We have a 24/7 emergency. If you have an emergency, just come. Because we have invested in an emergency physician, an emergency team who are there 24/7. So we don't want time to be the reason why you need. If you need an ambulance, the ambulance line is on the website. You can get the ambulance line. If you need to speak to someone, we have a number of numbers you can do. We have WhatsApp, we have Facebook, and we have Twitter. Leave us a message. We know we are not perfect, and I want to say that we are not perfect, but we are committed to improvement, and that's whereby if you reach us on any of these, even my email address, you can reach me directly, md@nyahomedical.com. Send me an email, we'll respond to it.
Show some love, man. And that's a doctor that believing in better.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Congrats for being the first president of STN and also now being the member of the month.
Thank you.
And we're very proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay, folks, until we come back next week, let's show some love to the film one more time. And until next week, when we come back with more stuff, we are out of, let the whole world say, yeah.
I go kill you with